The Billionaire's liaisons with 4,000 women and their consequences. Kosuke Nozaki, a billionaire famous for his romantic escapades from his youth to his elder years, was ready to spend a whole 3 billion yen to engage with 4,000 different women, sparing no expense to marry a wife young enough to be his daughter or granddaughter. These are the traits that the people of Japan mention when talking about the successful businessman Kosuke Nozaki. Then, a shocking event occurred when, at the age of 77, just 3 months after marrying a young wife, the tycoon suddenly died in a state of complete undress, without a piece of cloth on his body. This information became a major shock that stunned the Japanese public. Ultimately, what happened to this wealthy man? At 10 p.m. on May 24, 2018, a phone call was made to the Japanese police station, reporting that 77-year-old Japanese billionaire Kosuke Nozaki had suddenly passed away in his own 2-story villa. Authorities immediately sent personnel to the scene to cordon off the area and carry out the necessary investigative steps. Upon arrival, the police quickly checked the initial condition of the victim's body and estimated that Kosuke had died approximately 2 to 3 hours before the report was made, meaning around 7 to 10 p.m. Although there were no external injuries, the autopsy revealed something unusual. A lethal stimulant was found in his body, and the cause of death was acute circulatory failure. What was even stranger was that Nozaki usually did not use such drugs. Further investigation did not find any stimulants in the room, house, or car. The police suspected this might be a deliberate murder case due to many suspicious elements. The investigation began with statements from the wife and the household manager. At the time of Mr. Nozaki's death, both his young wife and the household manager were in the house and were listed as suspects. The butler, named Takeda, once managed a small bar but had to move to Nozaki's house as a butler for over 30 years due to bankruptcy. Nozaki's wife looks quite young, so much so that she could be mistaken for Nozaki's daughter. Her name is Saki Sudo, 22 years old, 55 years younger than her husband. Sudo has a glamorous physique and comes from a modeling background. Additionally, she was a fairly famous adult film actress. Coming from a not-so-wealthy family, Sudo appears to be gentle on the outside but leads a rather unrestrained lifestyle. She is addicted to alcohol, lazy, greedy, promiscuous, and often frequents bars. The police heard alibis from these two, with Sudo's alibi on May 24 as follows. That evening, he and I were in bed together watching a sumo match. About 6 hours after the sumo match ended, the butler called, "Madam, dinner is ready, so I am going downstairs to eat." At that time, Nozaki, my husband, said that he should eat first as he wasn't hungry yet and would eat later. He didn't want to eat and would stay in bed to watch another sumo match. After dinner, I stayed on the first floor, and it wasn't until 10 p.m. that I went up to the second floor to go to bed. That's when I discovered my husband naked, sitting on the sofa in a state with his neck arched back. I ran to him, but Nozaki was already unconscious. According to both of their statements, it means that Nozaki died while his wife Sudo was downstairs. The police speculate that Nozaki might have ingested the stimulant pills to commit suicide orally while he was alone on the second floor. After checking many times, they still couldn't find any injection marks on his body. However, the police think the suicide theory is unreasonable because Nozaki's assets amounted to hundreds of billions of yen. And a few days before his beloved pet dog died, he called a close friend asking if they could come to send it off. That friend was present on the day of the send-off, which was May 6th. The friend of Nozaki said, although he was also sad because his beloved pet dog had died suddenly not long ago, it's inconceivable that Nozaki would commit suicide. With a huge fortune and a young, beautiful wife living happily, suddenly committing suicide is absurd. Even more suspicious is that the billionaire died 18 days after his beloved dog, Evie, died unusually in his care. Those close to him knew Nozaki adored Evie extremely, always saying he would leave his fortune to the dog after his death. Upon hearing this, the police immediately began investigating the story of Nozaki's beloved dog. They decided to exhume the dog and perform an autopsy, suspecting that the beloved pet might have been killed by an injection of stimulants. However, contrary to the police's expectations, no stimulants were found. According to acquaintances, Nozaki loved his dog even more than his young wife. Even while at work, Nozaki would occasionally call home to ask the butler how his puppy was doing. Yes, it's resting, but it hasn't eaten much. What? Evie doesn't want to eat. If you let my Evie go hungry or get sick, I'll fire you on the spot. Was anything captured on the security camera? When checking the 8 exterior cameras, oddly, the police found no one with suspicious intentions trying to break in from outside. Only 2 people were inside the house, the butler and the young wife. The police began to wonder, who would benefit the most if Nozaki died? All suspicions fell on the main suspect, the young wife, Sudo. After collecting statements and conducting initial investigations, the most likely murder suspect was Nozaki's wife, Mrs. Sudo. For several reasons. First, the clear behavior recognized when the young woman, after initially seeming panicked in her statement, then continuously busy providing her alibi to the police without showing any sorrow or sadness for her husband's death. Second, during Nozaki's funeral, Sudo appeared indifferent and aloof. She even casually played games on her phone. Third, after her husband's death, Sudo had requested an art company to appraise a painting owned by Nozaki. She was suspected of planning to sell at least one of the valuable paintings her wealthy husband owned. Fourth, more significantly, weeks after the funeral, Sudo quickly planned to disperse her late husband's assets. She unilaterally appointed herself as the chairman of the company, then transferred over $300,000 into her bank account from the company's treasury, and planned to move abroad. However, the wife Sudo believed she had no reason to be suspected. She was at a disadvantage after her husband's death, because behind their marriage was a condition that Nozaki must deposit 1 million yen into Sudo's bank account every month from the day they got married. Sudo asserted that Nozaki's death would disadvantage her both emotionally and financially. But things seem not as simple as the young beautiful wife explained. Not long afterward, the police found a suspicious point in the will that Nozaki left. The will stated that Nozaki would leave 3.5 billion yen of his assets to his wife, Sudo. Just before his death, Nozaki's assets amounted to about 5 billion yen. This means he left almost all of his assets to his wife. Therefore, Nozaki's death was extremely beneficial for Sudo, and not just in a simple way. Was this will truly handwritten by Nozaki himself? Anyway, it's hard to understand why he would leave almost all his assets to his wife. Sudo sneered, saying it was absurd, suggesting that the police accused her of forging the will. And was there a problem with her husband giving her 1 million yen to spend each month? No, it's not that there was a problem, it's just hard to understand. It's obvious to anyone that the young wife would benefit the most from Nozaki's death. However, the police lacked evidence to prove Sudo was the murderer. Meanwhile, Sudo consistently denied any involvement in her husband's death. She decided to remain silent in the face of all accusations from the police. The case was reported in the media, and many people mocked the police for their inability to find evidence, while it seemed obvious that the young wife was the culprit. Nozaki's success story also became a hot topic. Billionaire Nozaki, who started from nothing. Nozaki was born in Tanabe City, Wakayama Prefecture in 1941, the third son in a family of 7 siblings. Due to financial difficulties, he finished middle school and then dived into working life. After middle school, he worked in a foundry, a company collecting iron dust and scrap, then sold it to junk dealers to save money. Without money or good looks, no woman was interested in him. Thus, Nozaki always felt envious of wealthy men, who always got to drink intimately with beautiful women at bars. Meanwhile, his own reflection in the mirror was the complete opposite, resembling something from a horror movie or a tragic story. One day, Nozaki saw a man, unattractive, happily sitting with 2 beautiful women on either side at a table opposite. The unattractive man pulled out several 10,000 yen bills from his wallet and stuffed them into the women's bosoms. Seeing the happy-looking beautiful women, Nozaki realized that money controls everything. Nozaki thought that he must make money by any means. He earned money by collecting leftover scrap metal and iron dust from factories and selling them to junk shops. To make extra money, he took up a job delivering beer to entertainment districts at night. One day, while delivering beer, he found a white object in a ditch and picked it up. It turned out to be a condom. Nozaki realized that although everyone knows condoms are sold in pharmacies, because of embarrassment, nobody dared to buy them there. With a bit of daring in him, he bought condoms in bulk and started selling them at entertainment venues. At that time, the salary of an average office worker was 15,000 yen, but a box of 12 condoms was sold for 1,200 yen. Nozaki made a lot of money without ever thinking about how selling condoms could be subject to mockery. He quit his job as a liquor store clerk and started selling condoms seriously. Nozaki, who made a fortune from selling condoms, wanted to gamble his life on stocks. He again made a lot of money from stocks. When he made so much money that it was beyond his control, Nozaki thought luck was always smiling at him, so he decided to try his hand in the Tokyo real estate market to see how far his luck would take him. Later, in his book, Nozaki said he had made so much money that the biggest gamble of his life was diving into the Tokyo real estate market. Besides succeeding in the real estate business, Nozaki also ventured into the alcohol trade, finance, and private lending market, becoming a self-made successful man well known in Japan. Having endured many insults in his youth, Nozaki now became a figure who could have any beautiful woman he desired. He then told a reporter, covering his success story, that he had been with about 4,000 beautiful people and had spent approximately 3 billion yen on them. And he unabashedly boasted that there was nothing money couldn't buy. His autobiography was published in December 2016, titled, The Man Who Bought 4,000 Beautiful Women with 3 Billion Yen. Another book was published in April 2007, titled, I Want to Sleep with Beautiful Women Until I Die. Nozaki, a man obsessed with women, had a sexual encounter with a 27-year-old model at his home in February 2016, after which he was robbed of 6 million yen in cash and 54 million yen worth of precious metals. The incident was reported in the media. Nozaki responded to them, "It's just a few bucks. To me, that's not even money. I'll take it as someone teaching me a lesson in life." Even after being robbed of such a large amount, he regarded it as a good experience in life, and the story became a hot topic. Surprisingly, he settled down and married a young wife. After numerous fleeting romances and joyous liaisons exchanged for money, on February 8, 2008, Nozaki unexpectedly reformed and married a 22-year-old model named Sudo. According to both of their accounts to the press about this fateful love affair, one day, Nozaki fell at the airport, and Sudo helped him up. He thanked her and said he wanted to take her out for dinner. The two hit it off and fell in love. Nozaki once recounted that he fell in love with her because she seemed so pure, unlike any other woman he had met before. Thus, they quickly became a couple and decided to get married. Revealed in Gendai Business, a few months before his death, this business magnate confidently believed he would always be happy marrying Sudo. The veteran businessman also ignored all warnings to stay away from the beauty 55 years his junior, potentially targeting his vast fortune. It seems Nozaki's keen eyes were only used in business, not in love, as he easily let down his guard with his life partner. If Sudo really killed her husband, what motives could there be besides money? But after a period of happiness, someone revealed the truth about Sudo to Nozaki. They showed him photos of Sudo before cosmetic surgery, revealing she was not a model but an adult film actress. Nozaki was furious upon learning she had intentionally tripped him and then pretended to help him at the airport. He couldn't stand the feeling of being betrayed and used for money. Finally, after seeing the pre-surgery photos of her and a photo of her with another man, he decided to divorce her. Nozaki called her, confirmed the truth about the above and informed her of the divorce. "Look at this woman, what a disgrace. You two thought you could fool me? Now I know you and your lover planned everything. I'm preparing the divorce papers, just wait." Sudo said, "Honey, who would deceive you? I only love you. Age doesn't stop us, and no one can break our bond." Nozaki shouted, "Shut up, bitch. It's over." According to the Japanese media, before his death, Nozaki seemed to have grown tired of his wife and was considering divorce. The reason was that since getting married, Sudo stayed in Tokyo and refused to move to Tanabe to live with her husband. During this period, the U-80 magnate was reportedly involved with several women besides his wife. Before his death, Nozaki had a romantic relationship with Ms. A beauty who had made it to the finals of the Miss World Japan contest. Ms. A, 25 years old and 1.73 meters tall, possessed beauty, slenderness, and attractiveness far surpassing Sudo. Therefore, when Sudo did not return to Tanabe, Nozaki decided to break up with her to marry someone new. Nozaki's decisiveness put Sudo at risk of losing her lavish lifestyle. This is considered the motive for the woman to murder her husband in order to take over his vast assets. The police reasoned that Sudo might have worried that if she were divorced like this, she would be kicked out of the house without a penny, so she plotted to kill her husband to inherit the money. However, Sudo's lawyer asserted her innocence against all the prosecutor's charges, stating there was no evidence that she had directly done so. And for a while, the case seemed to have been forgotten by the public. After 2 years of deadlock, the case of Nozaki's sudden death in a naked state suddenly drew significant public interest in Japan, with many new details revealed. Specifically, in 2020, when a drug dealer was arrested, police checked the list of people who had bought from him and discovered Sudo's phone number among them. Meaning, this woman had contacted the drug trafficker. She likely bought drugs and poisoned Mr. Nozaki. Re-examining the crime scene, police found traces of the stimulant on the floor and in the vacuum cleaner at Mr. Nozaki's home. In early 2021, when police examined Sudo's personal belongings for the investigation, they found in her computer's search history multiple entries about buying stimulants and how to use them. Even keywords like murder, how to buy stimulants also appeared. This proved that the actress had meticulously planned to assassinate her husband. On April 28, 2021, Sudo was immediately arrested as a suspect in Mr. Nozaki's murder. On May 19, 2021, the Wakayama District Prosecutor's Office indicted Saki Sudo for murder and violating the law on drug transactions and use. According to police sources cited by Manichi, she decided to remain silent and wait for the trial to appeal. To this day, the case of Sudo Saki murdering her husband continues to stir public opinion in Japan whenever it is mentioned. Because of her bottomless greed, she eventually faced retribution. Not only did she not receive the inheritance, but she also faced a severe sentence for the murder charge. And the end of the once wealthy playboy billionaire has become an endlessly discussed topic. A life of pleasure, only to end from that very pleasure itself.